Welcome to NYNJPA Weather, your weather source for the Northern Mid-Atlantic. I'm your meteorologist, Stephen DiMartino. Well, first I want to wish everyone a happy Cinco de Mayo, or as I like to call it, the day in which Corona decided to create a holiday, to boost sales. Now, for this morning, we have an area low pressure sitting up around eastern Maine, and we have another high pressure system developing over the Ohio River Valley. The combination of these two pressure systems, well, that's going to create a very windy afternoon for much of the northern Mid-Atlantic. Because of the difference in these pressure zones, what you end up with is a northwesterly wind around 10 to 20 miles per hour with some gusts around 30 miles per hour. This is what you call a pressure gradient, and unfortunately it's going to linger on through the afternoon. The good news is that because of this northwesterly flow, we're importing plenty of dry air, so we really don't have any risk of any type of precipitation. In fact, skies are going to be rather clear for this afternoon. This is the water vapor satellite picture as of 10:30 a.m. and what I want to show is that we have a rather impressive upper level feature starting to develop into a cutoff upper level low over New England. This upper level low is going to have an influence on our weather for at least Wednesday. And the reason why is because we're going to have several disturbances rotating around this upper level low, like the disturbance that's over the northern plains this morning. And as these disturbances approach the upper level low, they will be moving into a northwesterly flow because the upper level low is located to the north and northeast of the northern Mid-Atlantic. And that's good news because what happens is that these disturbances are kind of like rocks. And these rocks are moving into a giant pinwheel. A giant wheel of crushing force that will basically destroy these disturbances as they move towards the northern Mid-Atlantic. So what we're expecting throughout this week and into the weekend and into early next week is that we're going to continue to see these disturbances rotate through and weaken. And as they weaken, they'll produce a few isolated showers, some clouds, but overall not really much in the way of precipitation. And temperatures, because of this northwesterly flow, will basically remain around normal with temperatures in the upper 60s to lower 70s by this weekend, which is right around normal for this time of year. The other good thing about this type of pattern is that with a northwesterly wind, the winds are going to come down off the Appalachian Mountains, and that usually leads to some warmer conditions. So I would not be surprised if some days when the wind is just right off the Appalachian Mountains, that some locations in the Delaware River Valley end up in the mid-70s, possibly even upper 70s, with just the right wind component. So something we'll have to keep an eye on. But overall, we're looking at basically a quiet pattern going forward. This is the European model guidance for tomorrow evening via the Penn State e-wall. And what we have is an impressive upper level low setting up around New England, as I was discussing. And you can see these disturbances coming in and then they're weakening. And the reason why is because this upper level low is causing convergence and confluence aloft. So as these disturbances approach, they weaken. The showers that are present become more and more isolated, and as a result, really not much of a major impact for the northern Mid-Atlantic. By this weekend, and this is for Sunday evening, notice that the upper level low is weaker, but it's also further to the east. This means that our pattern is going to be strictly from a northwesterly component. And that's important again because that creates convergence and confluence. The winds are moving into the base of a trough, which basically means that we're going to remain relatively dry throughout this weekend. Now again, there's still going to be a threat for an isolated shower here or there and a few clouds, but for the most part, most locations will remain dry and relatively warm with temperatures in the upper 60s to lower 70s. So if you have plans this weekend, go out and enjoy them because it's going to be an excellent weekend. You're going to have low humidity, temperatures near normal, around 70 degrees, and really only an isolated chance of any type of showers over your location. So go out and have some fun. Moving forward into next week, our pattern starts to transition just a little bit. Our upper level low starts to intensify to the east of the Canadian Maritimes, and this is somewhat like a negative NAO pattern, but not exactly. And the reason why is because this upper level low is a little bit south of where we like to see an upper level low develop for a true negative NAO, and also we have a powerful upper level low that's trying to develop over northern Canada. This is the closest we can come to is an east base negative NAO pattern. Meanwhile, we have a trough developing over the west. Now, what this usually indicates is that a very strong high pressure system is going to develop over much of the eastern two-thirds of the United States, and that's exactly what we're going to be developing. Now, this northwesterly flow is going to again produce rather dry conditions, but the question is, where will this high pressure system be centered? At the mid levels, this is a warm pattern, but at the lower levels, well, that's a different story. As you can see at the surface, we have high pressure that is centered over central Canada, and it tries to build down through the east coast. Notice we also have an area low pressure that is very strong in the Atlantic. Now, what this appears to be setting up here is a backdoor cold front that stalls out around Virginia. Now, the further south this backdoor cold front gets, the better potential that the northern mid-Atlantic ends up clearing out, and we end up with temperatures, again, near normal with more of a polar / marine type of air mass influence. What that basically means is that temperatures are near normal and the diurnal range is kind of small because we have a better chance of seeing some low clouds and fog in the morning. So we're going to have to keep an eye exactly how far south this backdoor cold front gets. And as you can see here on this depiction from the European model guidance, the frontal system stalls out around central Virginia. If that ends up being further north, we end up with a much wetter and much more cloudy weather pattern heading into early next week. So it's something we're going to have to keep an eye on. Thank you for trusting in NYNJPA weather as your weather source for the northern mid-Atlantic. I'm your meteorologist, Stephen DiMartino. Have an excellent day.